with the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor by the Empire of Japan on December 7, 1941, many men and women were angered and wanted to retaliate against the Japanese, ultimately beginning America's entry into World War II and the War in the Pacific. One of these men was Jack Linscott. Jack was born in Indianapolis, Indiana in 1929. Growing up, Jack and his family were all products of the Great Depression, which hit in 1929. In 1930, Jack's family packed everything they could into one car and moved to California, along the Old Ridge Route. Jack was just 6 years old at the time. When they got to California, Jack and his family were very poor. They eventually settled down in the town of Pico and were referred to as river rats, which they wore with a badge of honor. As a child, Jack learned to be obedient, obligated, and to respect his elders. When the war broke out, Jack was working in a meat market, making 15 cents an hour. Jack went home that day to try to get his parents to sign for him so he could join the war, but his parents told him he was too young. Later, him and his friend got into a fight with 2 other wealthy boys from a town called Whittier. Jack knocked out the boy's front tooth. When the boy's mother wanted Jack's family to pay for the tooth, Jack had to appear in front of a judge named Judge Grotto. When Jack told the judge his family couldn't pay for the tooth because it had no money, the judge said he better leave town. So Jack went home that day and got his parents to sign for him so he can join the Navy in 1942.
I was all over the world. I wore 3 hats during the service. I fought in the North Atlantic in the wintertime against the German submarines, the wolf packs, convoying in a destroyer escort, taking people over to Europe, convoys of troops, ammunition, tanks, all that kind of thing. In the wintertime when it was below 0 and it was so cold you were afraid you're going to die and afraid you wouldn't. I mean, if you don't know what cold is, you like that. It's absolutely miserable. And on a destroyer escort, they're 300 feet long and we have 200 men aboard. The ship's complement is 200 men. It takes 200 men to run that ship. Everybody has a job to do. I was prepared for that. Because I had learned as a child what it was like to be obedient, to respect my elders, to say yes sir, no ma'am, yes ma'am. When I was called, I went. I had chores to do and I did them every day. So I learned all that. I just had to apply it. You understand? It's different today, and I understand that. It's more lenient, I think. But anyway, parents drive they buy their child a car, and they'll pay for the car as long as you buy the gas and pay the insurance. That's what happens.
What was your branch rank?
I was a second-class gunner's mate.
That
was my rank. I was in the United States Navy, regular Navy. I was not in the reserve. I was in the regular Navy. Called it a kitty cruise.
All right. What were your responsibilities in the military?
I had an unusual job. I think my whole time in the service, I played defense. Like if you're on a football team, I played defense. I was saving lives. Actually, I was not attacking people. I did convoys where I was protecting the troops, taking them overseas. So I played defense. I was up on the back bay. I talked about this in the class. I was up in the back bay recently when it was raining pretty hard. My wife and I were driving up on 20th and Irvine. And water was running down a drain by the side, at the curb, running under the street. And there was a pile of trash there, and I turned to Mel. I said, I hope that doesn't go down the drain into the bay. Just made a comment. And all of a sudden, the trash all moved. Here this duck got up, preened, was honking, and started walking across the street. And here was a bunch of little ducklings, like a string, walking behind her. And she was showing off and so proud. And I got out of the car because I didn't want to. There were no cars around, but I ushered her across the street. I turned to Mel. I says, "Oh my God, that sums it up. That's exactly what I did during World War II. I played defense. It's like during the armed guard going across the Pacific Ocean. Some of our trips were like 14,000 miles round trip. It was like taking a bus full of high school students the wrong way up the 405 freeway at the time of night when all the bars were closing the wrong way. That's what chance we had. Every time we took a convoy of 40 or 50 ships across, we lost about 5 or 6. And the government, the reason our record was expunged was simply because the American people were not able to understand or absorb that kind of bad news of thousands of people dying like that. Go ahead.
Any combat experiences?
Yes, Saipan. Yes, 3, 4, North Atlantic. We sunk a submarine off of La Havre, France, but I made several crossings in the Atlantic, and Saipan, Tinian, Guam.
Who was your commanding officer and the people you worked with?
Okay, well, when I was in the armed guard, the captain of the ship was Merchant Marine, so I didn't know him at all. No, his name was Gillespie. I'd never met him, but when I got with the fleet and went with the hunter killer group, my commanding officer was Leland Hardy, and a really nice gentleman. He was a captain, and the guys I served with. I'll tell you who they were. One of my buddies was half Indian, half Irish. His name was Tuscahummy O'Reilly. We had another guy named Elzal Turi, and we called him Chopsticks. We had another guy named Eduardo Giuseppe Vanini. He was obviously Italian. But aboard ship, we were about probably 60% descendants of migrants that left Europe many, many years ago to escape oppression, to be able to exercise religious freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of oppression, all that. And they came to this country to escape it through Rikers Island, came here, commingled, married, intermarried. So they weren't Aryan, they weren't all German, they weren't all Italian. I was English, Scotch, and Irish. So here we have all this melting pot of America on one ship. So I get so disgusted today when people are so opinionated about what race they are or what race somebody else is. If you see a bunch of wounded guys laying in a bunch on the ground, you know they're all bleeding the same color. It's red. Doesn't matter what their skin is. The skin is only to hold everything else inside. If you didn't have the skin outside, it would all fall apart, wouldn't it? Your insides would fall out, your heart would fall out. So race means nothing to me. Everybody's the same. We have black guys. When I was in the Navy, we had segregation. Blacks were segregated from the whites. But when the guns started firing, they were right up with us loading ammunition. Got it? So enough of that. Forget about this political correctness and everybody being so sensitive about everything. Forget about that. Go ahead.
What was the food like, and how were the sleeping situations?
I'll tell you one little story. Can I? You have time?
Yep.
When I was on a destroyer in the North Atlantic, and in the middle of a storm, I'd come off the mid to 4, which is midnight to 4 in the morning. I was so tired and so beat up, I didn't even take my gear off. I just lay down on my bunk. And the bunks are in the galley where you eat. The space on a destroyer is so precious, you can't waste, because you got 200 people on a ship that's only 300, the size of a football field. So I hit the sack, and about 6 o'clock they start serving. And so I'm sleeping, and a guy walks around with a tray right next to me, and the ship lurches, and he pours the whole thing right in my face. Tips the tray over right in my face. And let me tell you about chow. You go down to get breakfast, really hungry in the morning, and you go through the chow line. Well, we go through the chow line, they give you a piece of French bread, it's about that big, and you have to pick the little black spots out of it, because those are boll weevils. So you pick those little black spots out, throw them on the deck, and then they give you a little bunch of powdered eggs, and they give you maybe a little piece of ham or spam, and then French toast, and then you walked out. Now these guys, you're being served by what they call PALs, they call prisoners at large. These are either venereal restricted men that got a disease on the shore, and so they're restricted to ship, or they were late getting back, so they're deck court-martialed, which means they have to do this duty. So they're the ones that are serving us. They're mad at everybody. They're mad at themselves. They're angry with us because they have to do what they're doing while we're doing what we're doing. And then down at the end, you got a guy standing there with a ladle, and he's got the syrup. And so when you get there, he's supposed to put the syrup on the French toast, but he doesn't do it. He just looks you right in the eye and spills it over the eggs. Everything is the same. And I don't know what they've got in that syrup, but by the time you get to your table and sit down, which has borders around it, so stuff doesn't slide. So yeah, you're sitting there eating, but you're holding on to everything. You get to be pretty good. You can hold on to your cup, you can hold on to your food, and before you can start to eat, everything disintegrates. So it's not syrup, it must be paint thinner, because everything just dissolves right in front of you. What else you got there?
Where were you stationed?
All over the world. Well, literally all over the world.
How long did you serve? When were you discharged?
I went in 1942 and got out February 1946, 4 years.
Anything after the war? Any stories?
Yes. One of the first things I wanted to do when I came home, I went to a store and bought a quart of milk. Quart of milk came in bottles, about this tall. And they had little cardboard caps on, with a little tab on it. It was whole milk. We didn't have evaporated milk or pasteurized milk or anything like that back then. Well, we had powdered milk, but so I get this ice cold milk and I pull this little cap off the top, take my tongue and lick the cream off the back of the cap. That was manna from heaven. I mean, we had been eating powdered milk and powdered eggs and all that kind. There's nothing like a quart of ice cold milk. I drink that like you would drink a malted milk. And you do crazy things. I know that when I got home, I found myself sometimes on a sunny day, I'd go out and lay in the grass on my back. Just lay in the grass, smell the grass. Silly, huh? Not really.
No.
I mean, when you think about it, and my bed felt awfully good. Maybe it wasn't a Sealy or one of these fancy $1,000 mattresses, but it sure beat the heck out of that thing I was sleeping on aboard ship. Go ahead.
That's it. Where did you find the courage to where does that come from to go and fight just to go travel and just fight?
I don't think it took as much courage what I did. My heroes are the foot soldiers. My wife's brother was a recipient of the Distinguished Service Cross. He was a sergeant in the Army, a foot soldier up in New Guinea, big hero up there. I love that guy. He's 95 now, living up in Oregon. Let me tell you what courage is, okay? When we came off of Saipan, we'd offloaded and we were bringing casualties back to the ship. And it was, I think they called them lighters. They were like a big platform with a pusher engine on them. And on this platform, there were about 12 to 18 body baskets. And there was a man, a trooper, 18, 19 years old, maybe 2 years out of high school, laying on his back strapped in, with his arms folded across his chest and a little tag around his wrist. Not moving, not talking, not seeing. And they load him aboard ship and they lay him out on the deck in a rows. It's like cordwood. And as a medic comes around and they lift one of their arms up like that and read the tag on his wrist, and they forgot to put his arm back down. These guys are Asiatic, they're in shock. And So we come along behind, put the guy's wrist down for them. There, back where it was. And we took those back to San Francisco on our ship, along with a lot of other guys that were ambulatory. They were walking around, but they had the stares. They had malaria. They had screaming malaria. They hadn't taken their atabrine, and they get 104-degree or 105-degree temperatures, and they sweat like horses, and they're just in agony, and that's malaria, a terrible thing. And we hear them crying out at night, asking for their mothers, asking Jesus to help them. You know, there's no atheists in the service. Everybody believes in a higher power. Not all the same ones, but a higher power, something stronger than themselves. And so they believe in God because we brought them back underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. I had that up earlier. We were bringing these casualties back. And we're just getting ready to go under the Golden Gate Bridge, which was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. And San Francisco in the background. If you could see San Francisco, the United States of America, and the sun rising in the east behind that. So we're going under the bridge, and all of a sudden everything's so quiet that all these people on the bridge stop their cars. People get out and go over to the railing. And just as we start under the bridge, they roar like you were on the 50-yard line of a football game. And they're screaming, God bless you, welcome home, we love you, thank you, we love you. And some of these guys that are ambulatory, they're on the decks, they're kind of lolling around. They just perk up. That's my America. That's my America. It's still my America. I'm ashamed of what's going on today. I'm not getting political, I'm just ashamed of it. I'm ashamed of everybody. It just makes me sick to my stomach. But that day when I saw that, I was standing up in the bow. We'd already come through the subnet, so I had excused everybody from special sea detail. I was up in the bow because I wanted to look at San Francisco. And when that happened, I broke out in tears. I still get emotional when I talk about it. I've never seen anything like that. Never seen anything since. You understand? You love your country when you see that because everybody had everybody else's back. Those people on that bridge were adults that maybe that night did work making airplanes in a defense factory. Or maybe in the shipyards welding. Women, men, everybody contributed to the war. Women contributed as much as men. There was no one that didn't contribute to our war effort. There were a few guys that refused to serve, like Muhammad Ali. He refused to fight for his country. The guy that lit the torch at the Olympics didn't want to fight for his country. Lou Ayres, a lot of it. There were a few that were conscientious objectors, which was another form. Some were just cowards. But anyway, most of the people in the world were great people. The Germans were great people. The submarine we sunk off of Le Havre, France. My wife and I went on an international tour several years later, and we left Le Havre on this cruise ship, a ferry to go across to France, or England, I mean. And she saw me standing by the railing. I was looking down. She says, "What's wrong?" I said, "Come here." So I walked over there. She walked over there, right down there. I said, she said, what are you talking about? I said, there's a submarine down there. I said, there are about 50 guys down there. I said, we sunk that sub. I didn't personally, but our ship did. And I said, I feel so sorry because I know that there was nothing wrong with those guys. They weren't bad people. They were fighting for their country just like I was. They had wives, they had girlfriends, they had families. They never saw them again. So it made me feel bad. There were good Japanese, there were bad Japanese. There was Tojo, Yamamoto, there was Hirohito. They were all bad people. Tojo, he was hung as a war criminal. So there were bad people. But everyone was good, just a few bad people. So they're good all over the world. So don't ever get down on people just because of nationality or where they're from. And when you hear stories of World War II or any other war, I want you to think this way. Think, well, those people were only fighting for their country. I drive a Toyota. I like the Japanese. They're wonderful, you know. And by the way, Sawaka Higashi, the Japanese girl that was my old friend, and she was sent out to Poston out in Ehrenberg, out in the desert during the war, and didn't get out till the war was over. I don't know whatever happened to her. And Bay Losenstein, the Jewish girl, she was fortunate to be born in the United States. She went on USO tours, singing, dancing. Beautiful redheaded girl, Jewish girl. And she'd been born in Berlin during the war. In the middle of the night, the SS would come to the house. She had a brother. They would have broken down the front door, came in the middle of the night, yanked she and her brother out by their hair and their parents and taken them out the front door, put them in a truck, hauled them off to a concentration camp where they would be stripped naked, their hair shaved off, their teeth, their gold taken out of their teeth, gas in a gas chamber, and then burned in a crematorium. That's what would have happened to her by the bad people. But as it was, she entertained on the USO tour and had a happy life. Hopefully, I never saw her again. But so always think about good people.